It's usually night shift. It's a night shift.
There we go. I haven't got my computer here.
Yeah, so I've got one of these.
That's it. Well done, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's right, everybody. I'll bring the meeting to order. Thank you for everybody for bearing with us. We've had to change rooms because of IT issues within the main chamber. So I will advise everybody normal declarations, evacuation procedures that follow in the event of emergency, and that is at the door. Do not use the lifts, but use the stairs wells that side. There is other stairs through the chemistry chamber, but I would suggest that people follow either myself or officers. There is no evacuation procedures to go through or draw that is planned for this evening. In the event of alarm sounding, everyone must leave the building via the nearest safe exits. Use lifts. There aren't any disabled people here, I believe. There are, please shout. We should need to help you out. No. And nobody must leave, but there is, once you get outside, there is an assembly point at the back in the car park. Thank you very much for all of that. And then moving on, and people, this meeting is being broadcast over the internet and recorded. So if anybody has any issues, please state whether they have that issue or not. No. Please will everybody turn their mobile phones off so it doesn't interfere with anything. Members accessing the meeting remotely should use their SBC or KCC laptops to participate virtually. If you join us using the link on the website or on a mobile and tablet device, it is not always possible to identify you, and you may not be recorded as in remote attendance. Please ask members to speak loudly and clearly into their microphones. And I don't know where all the microphones are in here, but one assumes you get reasonable. Can everybody hear me on the internet? Shake.
Yes, can hear you clearly.
Yes.
Great, excellent.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. Right. This is a hybrid meeting of the Joint Transportation Board, including any members of the public that wish to join in. Councillor, looking at the agenda, Councillor Elliot Jays has been replaced on the JTB by Councillor Derek Carnell. There are obviously various officers that are here in attendance, some that are attending via the internet. You have Mike Knowles in person. I think Brett should be with us. I think I can see Brett there.
Yep.
We have Pauline Harmer, who's remote, hopefully. Swale Highways Manager and KCC Daniel Cannon Skeet. Joseph Bradley, who should be remote as well. Project Manager at a Major Capital Program KCC Richard Shelton, who's remote. Senior Program Manager Active Travel KCC Jamie Watson, who's remote. Clark Welsh, who's remote. Project Manager National Highways Daniel Robertson, who's remote. And Network Rail, Ross Boyle, Simon Holman, and obviously Philippa, who's here. Are there any other officers in attendance? No, you've done a good job there. Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm subbing for councillor Richard Palmer. Actually, in fact, I'm also subbing for councillor Simon.
Okay. But I thought I heard Simon on the internet.
Yeah, good evening, Chair. Yes, I am indeed online. Could I draw your attention, please, back to agenda item number 1, confirmation of Chair and Vice Chair. You seem to have skipped over that.
Okay, I will do that once I finish this little piece here. In fact, I've already done that. So, yes, this is the first meeting that we held of the civic year, and so therefore it needs to be confirmed that the chairman is myself, being nominated by the leader of Kent County Council, as the chairmanship fluctuates year to year from Swale Borough Council to KCC and vice versa. Nobody else is putting their name forward, chairman. Likewise, Simon Clark is the vice chairman. The objections to that? No. Does that satisfy you, Simon?
Indeed, thank you very much, Chairman.
Okay. Right. Are there any declarations of interest before we start? Take silence. Oh, yeah. Silence.
Yeah, very remote, not from your interest that I own a property in Stoke Crescent.
Okay.
So that it doesn't really affect us, so
Okay.
just kind of know that.
And have we done apologies for absence?
Apologies have been received from councillor Simon Clark, who is substituted by councillor Tony Weakness, and councillor Richard Palmer, who is substituted by councillor Peter MacDonald. And just to note that Kent County councillor Anthony Hook is attending remotely, and parish councillor Jeff Tutt is also attending remotely, and also Stephen is remote.
Excellent. When? Sorry. Thank you for that. If anybody wishes to, who's on the
Sorry, Chair, there's a couple of us
Brilliant.
online.
Sorry?
Sorry, Chair, there's a couple of us online that haven't been mentioned. I think myself and Councillor Booth are both here in outer space.
Well, we probably assumed you were there. But yeah, Mike Baldock is certainly there. Andy Booth, are you there?
I certainly am, Chairman. Again, I was going to come in on declarations of interest. Should anything occur with regards to Swale Community Leisure, I'll declare it then. But yeah, happy to be here. Thank you, Chairman. And congratulations for your chairmanship.
Thank you very much. Right, moving on. Item 5, public session. I don't believe there are any public speakers. Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought we were here. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Do everybody who were at that meeting recognise it and say that I can is
Agreed.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Yeah. Right, so there aren't any public speakers, so we can then move quickly on. There aren't any petitions. I presume that anybody wants to hand in. No, haven't been informed of any. So moving on to part one, reports and recommendations, Swale Borough Council's Policy and Resources Committee. Agenda item 7. Informal consultation results petition for residents parking Welwich Road Sitting Wall. Right.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as per the report, this is a follow-up to a petition that we received from residents of Welwich Road Sitting Wall, asking for their road to be included in an extension to the current residents parking scheme. We've undertaken an informal consultation as per the recommendation of the previous JTB. As you'll see from Annex B, the results didn't produce a majority support for the scheme in Welwich Road. Of the 26 properties which were consulted, there were 7 supporting the scheme, 7 objecting to the scheme, and 1 supporting a single yellow line on both sides of the road, and 1 supporting a single yellow line on both sides of the road, 1 on both sides, 1 on one side. Sorry. We also undertook a consultation for Victoria Road, where there was 15 objections to the scheme, no indications of support. At the Regency Court, we had 10 responses, 9 responses, sorry, 6 of which objected and 3 supported. So in light of the lack of the majority support for the scheme, the recommendation is that we don't proceed with the current proposal to extend the existing scheme. Thank you.
Anybody wish to speak on this item? Otherwise, I will propose from the chair the officer's recommendation. Yes.
I was just going to say, I think we should go on. Basically, there's quite enough support for this.
Okay, then Tony. Anybody else wish to speak? Otherwise, I shall say propose it, and Tony will second it.
Yeah.
Everybody in favour of that decision? Agree. That's carried unanimously. Agenda item 8, formal objection to traffic regulation order Swale Amendment 56, 2024.
Thank you, Chair. As the report states, this is with regard to a traffic regulation order for various proposed amendments to waiting restrictions around the borough. Just a few responses received, formal responses. I believe there's 1 formal objection and 2 indications of support at the report. So the first recommendation is quite straightforward in that the disabled person's parking bay outside of 6 Redhurst Place Sheerness be formalised as per the recommendation. We received 1 indication of support for that. The second item is an either or, unfortunately. It's around a short section of WLO lines in Park Road, Faversham, as per the report. We received 1 indication of support and 1 formal objection. So the proposal is either we progress with that WLO line as per the traffic order, or we remove it from this order and undertake an informal consultation with residents on some amended WLO lines in Park Road. But hopefully the report's very clear. As usual, happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Yes.
Question in the Park Road model. In the paper, it suggests that this was initiated by parking officers. Could you explain why, what their rationale?
Yes, certainly. The request came through via our parking enforcement, parking operations team, rather. I believe they had received a complaint from a resident who lives in the house at the end of Park Road. I understand that the resident had recently moved in, whether that's a fact or not, I won't comment. But the comment was that vehicle parking at the end of Park Road, with currently no restrictions, is impeding access in and out of the driveway into the OST. And it was also stated, as in the report, that it was obstructing the wheelchair access, but looking on site, there is no wheelchair or pedestrian access there. So I believe it was purely off the back of the complaint from the resident regarding the driveway being impeded. That's where it's come from. Thank you.
Can we come back?
Well, having listened to that, I mean, it feels like this is possibly the neighbour's dispute, and there's very little general interest from the public. So I don't think I'd be in favour of carrying on with the order. I mean, the option you've been given is that you do submit a formal consultation. So I think if that's something you're prepared to do, I would suggest that is probably a more suitable way forward.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I had a look at this. I don't know this area. I had a look at Google this afternoon. This road, unfortunately, at both parts, where the yellow line would be on the picture, and there was a car park as it is here in this picture that was not blocking any access to one part road. And on the other side that they mentioned, which is access to the car park for the recreation ground, there was a car park there. And again, there was no obstruction to the car park and recreation ground. It forced cars to go around it in, one at a time, but there was no obstruction. So I would agree. I would agree that you go to formal consultation and get a few more.
Anybody on the online wish to comment? No raised hands? No? Could I have a proposer and a seconder?
I'll propose.
Seconded. That's for the recommendations.
The second option. Oh, sorry, for number 2, I mean, yeah.
Are you proposing for the
Yeah, I
first
just
one
want
as
to
well?
propose, I don't really know.
A second.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, well, I'll propose the first one then. Okay. Those in favour of the proposals? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Right. Moving on to agenda item 9. Petition request from residents parking scheme Belmont Road.
Thank you, Chair. You will be pleased to hear this is my last item. This is a straightforward petition that is received from residents of Belmont Road in Faversham, requesting the introduction of this parking scheme to cover their road. The petition submitted states that the 24 properties located in Belmont Road, 19 householders signed the petition supporting the scheme, 1 objected, 2 abstained. 1 property was empty at the time of the petition being circulated, and 1 of the properties consists of 3 flats that has its own off-street parking. So the proposal is, as is usually the case when a petition is received along these lines, for us to undertake an informal consultation and to bring those results back to a future JT level for further discussion.
Anybody want to make a comment? Otherwise, yes.
Well, I should propose to accept
You're happy to second, right? Okay, all in favour of that? Yes,
Yeah.
agreed. Thank you very much. Agenda item 10. Now, do we have somebody that can introduce this?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It's Brett.
Oh, hi there, Brett.
Hiya. Yeah, so basically, this is a report following a recent consultation to look at reported access issues for vehicles entering Stowe Crescent at the Baptist Church end of the road. The proposal was to remove the 2 disabled bays and install WL lines instead. Now, I don't know what's changed there because those disabled bays have been in quite a long time, but all of a sudden it's becoming a bit of an issue. As like I say, we've had a couple of reports. We've had one from the police, and we've had a resident as well. So I'm not sure what's changed there, but I've got a feeling there's larger vehicles parking opposite or more vehicles. I don't know. But like I say, those bays have been there quite a long time. So the proposal was to remove the 2 bays because we looked at various options, and this seemed to be the more logical one. The reason being is that if we remove the bays and install WL lines, any blue badge holder can park on a WL line up to 3 hours, which would cover most of the services, well, pretty much all the services that the church do. And considering the bays were installed originally for the church, if my memory serves me correct, this should cover that period. Now, the other thing that did come up from the church was that vehicles have started parking actually fully on the footway outside the church where the bays are, so sort of blocking, obstructing the footway. Now, if we were to install WL lines there, obviously we can enforce right up to the back edge of the footway, so we can actually issue a PCN notice to those vehicles. So that would help in that respect, and I did inform the vicar of that, and they seem quite happy about that. But they haven't objected to the actual removal of the bays. So that's that, and so basically, yeah, the proposal is to install WL lines instead of the disabled bays. And see what comes out of it. Like I said, there's 2 objections, but I did consult a lot of people, so I was surprised only 2 come back, but they did. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And any questions, I can try and answer them.
Okay, thank you, Brett. I have Angela that wants to speak, followed by Peter.
Thanks, Chair. Obviously, I know this road. This road, you can see 2 from here. Picture, there's the white van and there's the open back trucky thing there. And this is actually getting more and more typical of the whole of Sheerness. So it isn't just Swale Crescent where we're having trouble with getting through because of the size of the vehicles. And I don't know where we're going to end up because this is a one-way street. I have concerns about losing the 2 disabled bays, but if the church, who I agree, Brett, that is why they were put in all those years ago. If the church are not going to object, then who am I to argue with them? I think we need to be very clear about where disabled people can park on the pavement to ensure that traffic can get through. If we're going to allow that much space for that much space for disability scooters, blah 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 blah. Maybe we can have a bit of a dotted line like we had all those years ago and put in at still there, yeah. And I think that might help to delineate where disabled people can go, and also, of course, to make sure that we put it on the list for our civil enforcement to actually keep an eye on that area.
Yeah, but it's the thing is,
you know, this is one-way street that we're problems with. We can have more and more and more because people aren't bringing trucks in with them. That's quite part of the old Chelsea tractors that some people have. Thank you, Chair.
okay, Peter.
Yeah, I think it's very logical, the proposal, quite frankly. I was wondering, I don't know the answer to, so I looked it up, but it's whether there can be, normally, when you make a restriction of some kind to the width of vehicles that park in the road. Okay, inconvenience them, but I would have thought under the Road Traffic Act, somewhere we might be able to find the clause. But I think it's a very sensible thing, because as you rightly say, disabled people, if they're going to the church or to a function at the church, they can park there for 3 hours. Of course, then it becomes enforcement, which you can see by there's one parked on the path and things like that. But the enforcement needs to be tightened up quite a lot, particularly in Sheerness. We've got a very good police officer, but you have an awful lot to do. I noticed that part of the transport put stamps on ever so many vehicles where obviously people weren't taxed. And there's an example in there of a vehicle that hasn't got a body on it, come on. If if it isn't a roadworthy vehicle, then it's litter. And whoever owns it, it should either be taken away and crushed or they should be prosecuted.
Thank you, Pete. Mr. Roy.
Thanks, Chairman. I agree with what's been said. I think introducing yellow lines there, I think would help the majority of the time. And if disabled users of the church wanted to park, they would be able to for that 3 hours. I think that doesn't take anything away, therefore, from the church. It's possibly why they've not objected. Quick question though, in respect of the yellow line on the opposite side of the road where the white vans are, possibly where the lines would be there. Because I'm not so sure that the line runs the full, is it 15 metres from the junction? Which the highway code, is it 15 metres? The highway code suggests that there should be no parking from a junction. And I'm not so sure that the yellow line on the opposite side of the road where the white. I'm sorry? It's advisory, that's why I asked the question. And whether just extending that by a couple of yards as well might help keep that corner clear without causing overdue issues for residents.
So are you going to propose that alongside the removal of the disabled bay?
If it gets the debate going, I'm more than happy to propose that we accept the recommendation to remove the disabled bay and replace it with the WO line.
But also to look at the WO
and
line.
also perhaps to go to some consultation, because we'll have to do that anyway, on extending slightly the yellow line on the opposite side of the road. I'm thinking particularly for the taking members where that white van's parked at the moment in the picture on page 51.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I agree with you. Writing point I picked up in the comments here was that repairs are being done somewhere along that line, and possibly it's there where that is. Yeah. So I think Mike, I would second his proposal to add to the recommendation to the other.
Okay, so we've got a proposer and a seconder. You've managed to get the gist of that down. Everybody who's here who can vote. Are you for or against? For.
Chair.
Yeah.
Sorry, could I come in and make brief comment on that before you take the vote, or is it already too late? I have had my hand up.
Sorry, I can't see whether there are any hands up from literally.
You have to shout.
You have
Yeah, it's got the next week's name.
Yeah. I can't really see, but if you're really quick, Simon, I'll let you come in.
Yeah, we'll be very briefly, Chairman. I mean, we've all, known people have had larger cars for many years, but I seem to recall Swale Borough Council, at least, and I stand to be corrected on this, had bylaws in place to stipulate the size of commercial vehicles that could be parked in residential streets. If that is not the case, perhaps that's something that this committee could have an agenda item and look at in the future, because there are more and more people bringing home larger and larger commercial vehicles into roads that are completely unsuitable for them. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, I don't think there is a bylaw. I'm being advised by others that there isn't. But
the same problem. Yeah.
Would it be helpful if I suggested that the chairman and the vice chairman took that away to the next agenda setting meeting and discussed it there?
We can do, yes, we can take it away.
Personally, I wouldn't be in favour of it, but
I
haven't seen the report.
I would have thought it would have been exceptionally contentious for a lot of working people that do have to bring their vehicles home, not through choice sometimes.
I'll second that.
Like that it comes back to us.
Back to the next JTP.
Well, the chairman and the vice chairman have a look at it and decide whether to bring it back or not.
Yeah. But otherwise, we're going with the proposal that it's. Sorry, Peter?
There used to be a bylaw certainly in Sheerness and on the island, but people parking on footways. So I don't know whether that's gone by the board, but I think it was when it was.
I think that's always been there, it's whether enforcement officers want to enforce it.
We need to sort of look at something so things can be enforced. No, people have got to use, they're given two legs, they've got to use them.
I think that is already there. It's whether we wish to enforce or enforcement officers want to enforce or not. Right, it's going with the proposal and the proposal at the second. That's closing the disabled parking bays, putting double yellow lines in their stead, and looking at the other side of the road in terms of extending double yellow lines. Those in favour?
Could we also put some dashes? Yeah, we've got them bump their five, but.
I'm sure Mr. Knowles will
You know.
can
Not for the paint, if it helps.
Yeah, I'd like to see that more used more often, I think, working history and holding key copy of.
Yeah. Okay. Those in favour? Right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Right, moving on to part 2, reports for recommendation to King County Council's Cabinet. Agenda item 11, the King Local Transport Plan 5. Now, we do have somebody to help us do the joint, the KCC transport strategy, etc. Sorry, the Transport Plan 5. Agenda item 5. Sorry, 11. Is there an officer? We have an officer.
So is this local transport plan 5, Chairman?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm strategy manager, so I can briefly talk you through the consultation. I believe a report was sent to the Joint Transportation Board, but you didn't receive it in time. I don't know if that's been subsequently circulated as a late report. I do have some slides though that I can take members through if you're able to. I'm able to share my screen, which I'll just try now. Hopefully you can see. Can you see? Do you have access to seeing the screen? Can you see?
Yeah, I can see it, Joe.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just briefly take you through this. And apologies if you've been at any of the Swale area meetings. We've been to all 4 of those, or if you're a KCC member and you've already seen this, when we briefed all KCC members just before the consultation, it is essentially the same. Take probably about 10 minutes, and then there'll be time for questions. So I'll just briefly take you through what a local transport plan is, the consultation, which actually comes to a close tomorrow, what we've been consulting on, and then the rest of the process to adopting that plan. So the reason we have a local transport plan, it's a statutory duty under the 2000 Transport Act, as amended by the Local Transport Act in 2008. Which basically says each transport authority must develop policies for the promotion and encouragement of safe, integrated, efficient and economic transport to, from and within their area, and to carry out those functions so as to implement those policies. So in other words, what we need, where, when and why. So this is the 5th local transport plan since the 2000 Act. We're currently, until this one is adopted, on the 4th local transport plan, which is entitled Delivering Growth Without Gridlock, which was adopted by the County Council back in July 2017. And it was meant to span the period up to 2031. A couple of years ago, we undertook an early review of that document and concluded that it was out of date, needed updating for a variety of reasons. Circumstances had changed. The UK was no longer part of the European Union. We had the global pandemic, obviously, for 2 years. There was the move towards achieving net zero carbon in terms of carbon emissions and the legal obligations that placed on authorities within the UK. And we also looked at the number of schemes that we had. Lots of them had either been delivered, were on their way to being delivered, or would never be delivered for a variety of reasons. So we thought it important that we had a fresh set of priorities. And at the same time, the government was thinking that as well. Department of Transport instructed all local transport authorities to write a new local transport plan and gave us some modest revenue funding to help us to do that. So we started down that process and undertook a consultation a year ago, actually, on the emerging local transport plan, which basically set out an overall ambition, which I've got here on screen. I won't read all that out to you, but we consulted on that last year and made some changes to this ambition, which basically sets out, all the usual stuff, wanting to improve health and well-being and economic prosperity, making sure we have a safe, reliable, efficient and affordable transport network, trying to combat climate change, preserve our unique environment. And we do that by trying to encourage people on public transport, use emission-free vehicles and the infrastructure to support that, such as electric vehicle charging, etc. Improving walking and cycling to make that more attractive. And of course, always with highway safety in mind with our Vision Zero road safety strategy. And to deliver that ambition, we consulted on and then changed from the feedback a series of 10 policy outcomes, which fleshed out that ambition into a bit more detail about the specific things we wanted to focus on. Again, I won't read this out. It's all around the usual things, such as maintaining our highway network, which is grossly underfunded. Road safety, obviously, through Vision Zero. The importance of international travel, both in terms of freight and rail. Delivering a resilient, future-proofed infrastructure that provides access to everything that Kent needs, including our historic and natural environment, enhancing that, improving roadside air quality and contributing to decarbonisation to meet that net zero target for 2050, supporting public transport through delivery of the bus service improvement plan and the public health benefits that brings to air quality through better use of public transport, walking and cycling, etc. So that was last year. What we've been consulted on for the last 3 months is basically how we're going to deliver this, the implementation plan, if you will, the schemes or the priorities. I call it an implementation plan. It's probably a little bit misleading because there is actually no funding really to deliver any of these schemes. They're merely priorities which we want to say to government, look, this is what we need in Kent. We've consulted, we've heard feedback, we've changed it, etc. And we need to now have a conversation with government about how we go about funding these. Some schemes, some of these priorities on the following maps are schemes and are further ahead in terms of applying for funding, and others are just merely problems we've identified which need some sort of solution, which we may or may not have worked up to varying degrees. So we've always organised a document very similar to the previous local transport plan in terms of strategic, county-wide and then local, focusing on districts. So I'll just very briefly take you through that. This map shows priorities for the strategic road network, which obviously are motorways and trunk roads. Now, Kent County Council does not control motorways and trunk roads. That is the remit of National Highways, a government-owned company directly controlled by the Department of Transport. But if there are priorities in our local transport plan, it does help make the case for National Highways to then include those as priorities that then they attempt to get funding from the DFT for to deliver. So the big one, number one there, is Lower Thames Crossing, which we were expecting a decision on whether it was granted development consent or not on Friday. That was the deferred deadline from the earlier one in June, which had to be postponed because of the election. And all we heard on Friday was that an update would be provided in due course. Unless something's happened between me leaving the office and coming to present this at home, I think we're still waiting for a ministerial statement in the House of Parliament that reconvened today in the House of Commons about what is going on with that. And I expect it will be to announce a deferred decision date and not actually make a decision, although I might be wrong. But let's assume Lower Thames Crossing happens. It's in all of National Highways' strategies. It has been for a long time. There's a whole series of improvements that are needed along that whole corridor on the A2-M2 corridor, all the way around the borough of Swale, of course, on the M2, and all the way down to Dover. And that's reflected in all of these schemes, be it the Brenley Corner improvements, number 6 there at M2 Junction 7, number 8, which is Lyddon to Dover, the section of motorway around the whole borough of Swale, really, from Gillingham as far as Brenley Corner, which is still only 2 lanes. The original 1960s build needs to be looked at in terms of capacity. And then improving the links between the 2 corridors as well. So you've got number 12 there, Bluebell Hill. I'll cover that in a minute in terms of a local road scheme. But the potential trunking, sorry, that's grouped on this one with the A249 Detling Hill, the potential trunking or adding those sections of road to the strategic road network. The section of the A249 between the 2 motorways is a county road controlled by KCC, but of course the section north of the M2 at junction 5 up to the Port of Sheerness is part of the strategic road network and is National Highways network. So we were having discussions with them about the potential inclusion of that section, the 249 plus Bluebell Hill section between the 2 motorways as part of the SRM. Where that has got to, we do not know. National Highways get their funding in 5-year funding blocks in what's called the Road Investment Strategy, or at least they did do. We don't know if the new government's going to be continuing with that. If they do, they need to announce the new one pretty soon because that's supposed to start on the 1st of April next year. So you've got all of these priorities in there, including big one there, number 9, which is better improvement to how we manage international freight traffic and looking for a better solution than an Operation Brock as we have at the moment, and looking at freight as a whole. So just moving on then in terms of the county-wide proposals. So these are schemes in our network. So the big one is number 1, which is Bluebell Hill. We have been working with the Department of Transport to bid for funding for a scheme that looks at addressing the issues there, plus what will happen with Lower Thames Crossing. Not all the traffic will go down the M2A2 corridor. A lot of it will still need to transfer to the M20 for access to Eurotunnel, for example, or the other centres of population along the M20 corridor. So we're working on what's called a large local major scheme to bid for funding to deliver a project. So that's still very much a priority. The other scheme that's part of that same programme, if government continues with it, is what's called Major Road Network, or MRN. And number 2 on the map there out in Thanet is the North Thanet Link Potential Road Improvement. So they're 2 projects that are further advanced. The main one for sort of the whole of the county really is number 6, looking at the A228. Again, it's on the Major Road Network. We don't have a scheme yet for it, but we're looking at a project or series of projects that would improve that corridor. There's also a variety of county-wide proposals in that red box in the left, which apply to everywhere, which is, of course, as I've already mentioned, Road Safety Vision 0, maintenance of the road network, development management principles, so working with the districts in terms of when development comes forward to make sure places are planned in a way that enables people to walk, cycle, and so on, and improve bus services. For the bus service improvement plan that should be on there, it's got its own slide actually, and the shift to electric vehicles through EV charging infrastructure. In terms of public transport, I just mentioned it there. The detail of what we'd want to deliver for that is contained in the separate bus service improvement plan, which was consulted on a few years ago, and we got 35 million, I think it was, of a 250 million pound bid to deliver improvements to the bus network, a combination mainly of infrastructure improvements, but also some funding for services as well. Got flagship schemes up in Kent Thameside, Dartford and Gresham of the fast track, which is also been delivered number 2 there in terms of a fast track equivalent in Dover, which should hopefully be ready for opening quite soon. And it also includes rail services. Again, just like the motorway network, we don't have any control over railway services, but if it's a priority in our plan, it does help strengthen the case for investment by Network Rail, soon to be, of course, Great British Railways. So we're looking at all sorts of high-speed improvements, for example, to improve journeys to the east of the county, and just a general thing of trying to get at least 2 services per hour on the rail network to enable local journeys and connections to be made as well as journeys to London. Most stations only have one train an hour, which doesn't really allow it to be an alternative to the private car for a lot of journeys. In terms of walking and cycling, we've looked at all the local cycling and walking infrastructure plans, the LC WIPs, and tried to combine that into the Kent Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan, or KC WIP. Of note in Swale is, of course, a route across the Isle of Sheppey, which we've received a lot of feedback on for the appropriateness of that route, and improved connections between Faversham and Sittingbourne to Maidstone, plus a series of walking zones focused on town centres, of which Sittingbourne is one of those. The plan then goes into district level priorities. I'll just show the Swale one. Obviously, every district has a page like this, very similar to the previous LTP. It doesn't cover everything, doesn't cover every single detail of all the transport interventions needed to support your local plan, or Swale's local plan, but it does reflect the priorities from the district council in this, and we're very much, like Swale's feedback as to whether these are the right priorities, we've missed anything or we've got anything wrong. Some of these already talked about in terms of the strategic benefits, such as the M2 corridor between junctions 4 and 7 and Brenley Corner. Brenley Corner was a RIS pipeline scheme by National Highways, which was subsequently paused, and we don't know the current status of that programme with the new government. But it's certainly needed, especially for movements onto the A2 if Lower Thames Crossing comes along, plus to support the growth that's been put forward by the Duchy of Cornwall, for example, the Garden Village near Faversham. The A249 north of the M2 is, of course, like I said, strategic road network. Housing Infrastructure Fund delivering improvements to Grovehurst, Key Street still needs to be done, of course. And other road schemes, obviously looking at the potential to alleviate congestion in Sittingbourne by looking at what options there are for other routes, both north and south. And when we talk about going south of the A2, obviously the consideration of new connections to the motorway, which we know are being looked at by certain developers, and also completion of the Northern Relief Road as well to complete that link and relieve congestion in Sittingbourne, of which a key focus is, of course, walking and cycling, and the local and Kent cycling and walking plans to improve access into the town centre, from the retail parks to the north of the railway and also into the railway station. And then similar improvements looking at across the Isle of Sheppey, from Sheerness to Laysdown, and also, of course, in Faversham as well, looking at those connections and better links to the National Cycle Network and so forth. Plus, of course, the overall, like I said, bus service improvement plan aspirations and the rail service improvements that we looked at, including improving the frequency connecting Swale towns through to the Medway towns. So basically the key messages are, it's called striking the balance, this plan. We're trying to strike the balance between the need for maintaining our network in terms of road maintenance and the lack of funding that we have for that, delivering the bus service improvement plan, walking and cycling priorities, plus much needed road capacity upgrades, which are needed for both private car and public transport for buses and so on that also use the network. Just re-emphasize the fact that this plan is not funded, huge funding gap to deliver any of it, which we need to have a conversation with government about how we go about doing that, which will be the tricky part. The consultation has been running since middle of July. It does actually close tomorrow. We're right at the end of that period. You've got until a minute to midnight tomorrow to put in your responses if you haven't already done so. We look forward to that. We will then analyse all the responses, produce a you said we did document, make changes to the plan, and then take that back through KCC's governance process. There has been a member task and finish group guiding this development of the plan, and the plan itself, it is a county council decision as to whether it's adopted. Although the executive, the cabinet member and cabinet have a responsibility to make sure there is a plan, the whole council get to decide whether that plan goes forward or not. It's in our constitution. It goes to a county council vote, hoping to get it back to county council by the end of the calendar year before obviously we've got elections next May. Thank you very much for listening. There's an email address there, ltp5@kent.gov.uk, if you have any questions, or you can contact me directly. I will stop talking now and stop sharing, and through the chair, happy to respond to any comments or questions. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much for that, Joseph. I've got a list of people. I can see Mike Mike Whiting was the first to put his hand up. Then going from dealers, right, you've got Tony, Angela, Julian, and then Alistair. And then I think there was a yellow dot on the screen, which is Simon as well. So in that order, please.
Thanks very much, Chairman. Thanks, John. I'm grateful to Chairman's team for coming here tonight and explaining all that, and also for taking up my suggestion to attend the 4 area meetings, and I hope they were helpful too. I'm not sure, it's just in a report that officers have been discussing this with KCC, between KCC and Swale for some time. I'm not so sure that members between Swale and KCC, in particular I'm thinking of this board, had that much opportunity, if any, to discuss it before tonight. I think that's a mistake, and I think that is something that should be regretted. Joe mentioned, Chairman, how important it is to have things that we want included in this plan. If we are to stand in hope at all moving forward, getting government funding and other funding to actually bring those projects to life. If it's not in this plan and it's not a KCC priority, the chances of getting funding 5 years time down the line are very, very slim. So I think it's really important that we have on here the sort of things that we want locally. And that's actually looking at the plan, there seems to be a paucity of things for Swale when you consider other areas. I know that we've had, we've had New Junction 5. I know that when, various junctions on the 1849 are being done, but I think there's lots of other things we could. If you bear with me, I'm going to name 5 of them very quickly, just for the sake of the minutes. But I do think at some time at the end of this debate, Chairman, it would be helpful if we as a JTB could agree, and it may take some time, but could agree what our response to this is, because we've got until midnight tomorrow night to put it in. And I think as members it would be helpful if we could do that. I've got 5 things I'd put in there. I'd reinstate the direct trains from Sheppey to London. I think that would help the economy on Sheppey. I'd reinstate half-hourly services off peak to Sheppey as well to help the tourism industry. I'd seriously look at creating some sort of car parking at Swale Station to provide an alternative to Sheerness, Queenborough and Sittingbourne, where there is very limited parking, and to improve town.
Swale Halt.
It's called Swale Station now, or Swale Halt previously. It's Swale Station. And that would help cut town centre congestion, I believe. Trains stop there, but you can't park up to go and get on the train. I think we should recognise more fully the work undertaken by the Sheppey Light Railway Greenway Group in proposing a walking and cycling route that runs from Queenborough to Laysdown, with spurs from Westminster and halfway into Sheerness as the preferred route, and not the route that is currently proposed in the plan. And the 5th and final one would have been see specific proposals in here for rail freight into Ribham and into Sheerness docks. And I think that's another mistake. So there'd be my 5 things that I would add to it. And I'll leave it there because I really could talk for England on this, and I'm not going to. Other members have got far more important things to say, I'm sure. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, I had Tony first, then Angela. Then
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I've put up a lot, quite a bit in like the area committee meetings, so I'm not going to go all over that again. I do agree with what Councillor Whiting has said. I think mentioned this at the area committee meeting. You've got the railhead there at Ribham. It's still connected to the network infrastructure. Old railway line, I know well. It's totally disused, and it's near the port with the docks. It would help get some of the industrial traffic off of the A249. One thing I didn't bring up at the area committee meeting actually is the section A249 between Key Street and Stop is 2 lanes. That is basically what, 30 years old now. Which I call the Delaware bypass. That is all, I've lived in this area for 35 years. That's always been an issue. Even on the old road. Anyway, I think before long with the extra development that is taking place in this area, it's already been passed, it's up for planning proposals. I think the sooner or later that bit between Key Street and Stockbridge will have to be a 3-lane section of A249. Because I'm quite concerned, I've travelled most quite a bit myself, is that I can see where there's going to be future smack ups coming from the Mason direction. I see the way that road is designed, filtering it's nice and wide, that deep, but there's been done, it suddenly comes into the 2-lane bit. So that does concern me. So that's my point there. Thank you.
Okay, Angela.
Thanks. Joe, this came to me after your last presentation. Was it Sit Bono tuned into? Number one, you're talking about electrifying vehicles. There's a big push to have electric vehicles, more charging points, blah, 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 blah. So there were 2 points on that. One, are you talking to the National Grid? Because or we encourage people to have electric vehicles, is there the capacity in the National Grid to actually cope with it?
No,
And the
there's
second
not.
point is, are our highways able to cope with the size, or particularly the weight of electric vehicles? I personally have taken it up with our officer who's in charge overall of car parks, because our car parks were designed for normal cars, let's say, and the weight of whoever's got their mic on, please turn it off. The weight of the electric cars is almost double. And certainly because we've got the multi-story down the road, what you don't want is that suddenly collapse, because everybody's taken the hint and gone and got a new electric car. So has thought gone into those 2 points, Joe?
Joe, do you want to take questions as they come, or do you want to take a few and then respond?
I don't mind, Chairman. Do you want me to come back on the 3 that's spoken already and then move on to the next one?
You do that first, and then we'll carry on.
Yep. I mean, the rail issues that Councillor Whiting said, all really good, and yeah, I make sure that they get submitted in writing. I have noted them anyway. Yeah, I couldn't disagree with any of them. We've had discussions about the Queenborough, the walking and cycling route. My understanding is it is just an indicative route in the Kent cycling and walking infrastructure plan, and is subject to further consultation, design, etc., to establish that route. But I know Nicola Floodgate's team are very much working on that one. Yeah, and rail freight is one that we have aspirations for as well, which we work with Network Rail on as the rail authority for that. Yeah, I mean 249 and going to 2 lane. Obviously, the improvements that have been made at Stockbury with the flyover, National Highways responsible doing road safety audits, etc. We need to look at that for safety and so forth. There are no plans to further enlarge that road other than the improvements at Grovehurst and Key Street as part of the Housing Infrastructure Fund bid. But yeah, certainly I'll take those comments back to the project manager. In terms of electric vehicle charging, we have a team that looks at this. Tim Middleton, I don't know if you know him. And yes, there are obviously limitations in terms of the grid capacity and so forth, but this is a national issue that needs to be overcome for the government's drive to electric vehicles. So yeah, National Grid obviously are on board in terms of making those upgrades, which will need to be done, and EV charging will only go in where there is sufficient capacity. Weight of EVs, I'll need to ask Tim Middleton about that as well. I know there's obviously been some concerns raised about that, and yeah, the impact it will have on structures and so forth. So I need to take that back and ask some questions around that. But yeah, I've noted those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Fab. Julian, then Alistair, then And Peter.
Okay, thanks, thanks, Chair.
Yeah, I'll come to the internet at the end.
Okay, I wanted to make 4 points. One, it's really pleased that other people have mentioned rail freight, because when you read the document, it does feel a bit as though the assumption is that the solution to any problem is to try and improve the road network. And I think there are other ways of tackling the problems that the county's got. My second point was a question, really. I don't quite understand how in the wider national framework you're going to adapt and change the plan. I mean, you've identified that the Lower Thames crossing may not happen. There have been changes in government policy in relation to the possibilities for local authorities to be involved in buses. The minister has talked about a big increase in active travel funding. How will the plan respond to these things if it's going to be signed off in December? Third point, I don't think improvements in Brenley Corner need to wait for the Lower Thames crossing. I think they're needed well before that. And my final point would be in relation to cycling and walking. It's good that there's going to be a better link between Faversham and Sittingbourne, but I think in terms of travel to work and usage, there's a prime need to improve the route between Faversham and Canterbury for cyclists, and that would certainly be a priority for me in terms of the Kent Elsie Wick, which I think suffers from being led by borough concerns and perhaps ignores where people cross borough boundaries.
Thank you, Alistair.
Just coming back on the rail issues, I've had sight of the officer response from Swale, which lists all 5 of the items that you mentioned, so that they are in writing from Swale. But on that one, I certainly agree with the point about Brenley Corner and that cross boundary link for cycling. My main concern about the report is the section on carbon emissions. He puts some nice graphs in there that show a downward trajectory, but even that doesn't meet the levels that we actually need to hit the carbon budget. And then reading in the fine print of the supporting documents about this section, it actually states that you've excluded a lot of the impact of, for example, national highways improvements on carbon budgets, so that the carbon costs to national highways improvements have been excluded in those calculations. But the report is therefore still in favour of national highways improvements from a congestion point of view. So there's a mismatch between the emphasis on carbon, which is restricted to KCC's own remit, excluding the areas that are like national highways outside of its remit. And I think that's a significant weakness in the report that should be addressed. Supporting the Lower Thames crossing, as the report itself admits, will potentially increase journeys and the carbon that goes with it. And so therefore you can't exclude that in how the budget is portrayed. Those are the main ones.
Aaron.
Thank you for you, Chair. I thank Joe for his presentation tonight. I agree with Councillor Whiting on what priority, what extra things we should be putting in the report. But I also agree with you the fact that this is such an important document that perhaps this committee should have been discussing it way before the night before the clock strikes 12. As someone that doesn't drive and uses public transport a lot, the improvement of the bus network is something that I think we need to be looking at seriously. There is parts of this borough that does not have a bus service. I'm thinking Road Park Estate, where I live, doesn't have a brilliant bus service. Rectory Road doesn't have a bus service anymore. And if we want to encourage more people to use our public services, that's what we need to be looking at. The trains, yeah, I agree with you completely. I also agree about train. We should be looking more at that, but I don't think we should just be looking at frequency. This is something that we brought up at the area committee, is we need to be looking at the length of trains as well. And looking at the high speed ones. Any time of day I go on them, they're normally packed solid if it's big. So perhaps we need to be putting our point that there should be more. More is good sometimes. And cycle lanes, yeah, we should be looking at improving the cycle lanes, but I think we also need to remember we have got historic towns where road conditions aren't going to be favourable for cyclists. But that shouldn't be something that should be put in. So we should be putting things in place to open it up or be more inclusive and all. And that's it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the road actually, and certainly I agree with Councillor Whiting's points. The railway company reduced the service from half hourly to hourly. They tried it on COVID, and it so happened to Mr. Falco, who was the big haulier who I actually knew from Blackburn, and he was the chairman of the Strategic Rail Authority. So I wrote to him because they said their statistics showed that nobody was travelling. So I said, no, you need to actually collect the fares, which nobody was bothering to do. So anyway, he immediately instructed them to keep it going. But of course, it kept going until we unfortunately had COVID. The trouble with an hourly service is it doesn't really connect with anything. And I've been up to, I intend to listen to the KCC's rail on the 17th of October. And I've also been negotiating. I've been up to London with South Eastern, and they've got a meeting actually in London, which I'm invited to on the 15th of November. So I'll be meeting the directors again and leaning on them. Problem is the Department of Transport have got to justify it. Well, I know from a transport point of view that the Sheppey's economic situation is dire. It's really appalling, and it's no good housing associations bringing more people in who are unemployed or well, whatever reason. We need people with a disposable income. So you need people that are going to be long distance commuters up to London. I used to commute to London in the steam train days up to the city. So it was very fast. When I went to the last meeting in London, which is near London Bridge, we had to obviously go on the local train and then change at Rainham and catch the train which started there.
Peter, can we have a list of what needs to be in the plan?
Yeah, well, I was going to.
And I will cut in here and say the consultation obviously does run out tomorrow evening. If you haven't already put your comments forward, I suggest is pointless coming back or trying for me to put something in that comes outside the consultation. I'd recommend that you look at the consultation yourselves and get something in before the cut-off tomorrow evening. Did you want to just finish up on a couple of things that have been missed out of the plan that need to be put in?
Yeah, I think it's very important on economic grounds that the service to Sheppey is improved, and the direct service. I was suggesting they extend the southeastern train, which starts at Rainham. When I travelled up, which was peak time, hardly a soul on it. So I suggested that they started at Sheerness and get the commuters from Iron and also from North Sittingbourne.
Yeah,
it would be very convenient for them and then a fast train right up, I think goes up, past London Bridge, I forget where it goes to, used to be Cummins Street.
And obviously through ticketing would help as well.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a whole remit of things. Okay, thanks. If I can move it on a bit now. If I can take Simon put his hand up, Michael Dog, and then Mike Dendall, and I think that will do us. If then Joseph could sweep up all the questions that he hasn't already answered. Okay. Simon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was going to talk about EVs and the vehicle manufacturers, etc., but I'll save that for another day. Just to say that I was speaking with the planning officer this morning, incidentally on quite another issue, but we got talking about the Heisted Park development, and I presume this. Well, he didn't tell me it was embargoed information, but National Highways have objected to the proposed new junction 5A to come off the Southern Relief Road. I'm not 100% sure why. I think it's something to do with lack of detail at the moment, which obviously affects the Southern Relief Road, and also the link to the Northern Relief Road as well. And the second point is the officer was saying that he is desperately waiting, and I hope one of the officers from KCC Highways can take it on and pass it on if they're not dealing with it. He is desperately waiting for KCC Highways comments on the Heisted Park stroke Southern Relief Road M2 junction, etc., etc. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mike Bullock.
Yeah, thanks, John. Agree with an awful lot of what Councillor Whiting said. I mean, this is so important, and yet there has been, as far as I'm aware, virtually no discussion, certainly with Swale members, about what's important in Swale. I don't know what happened at KCC. I don't remember being involved in it early doors either at KCC. So it doesn't give you an awful lot of confidence that our input at this late stage is going to have any impact, or the input we've put in at other meetings. But I'll just go ahead. There's stuff in here that was back in May. We were spoken to. We didn't get a real input. I mean, stuff that's affecting Swale really isn't the priority. You know, our main priority has to be Brenley Corner. I don't think that there's much else in this document for Swale. There's nothing to tackle the growing congestion that we have, and that's going to continue with all the house building we've got. KCC haven't got a strategy for that, but it's just a blind eye. There's going to be no money for developers to fix these problems, apart from a little tinkering. We've already saw KCC's response to the last local plan, where they said things needed to be done, and then developers said, well, we can't afford it, and they said, oh, well, just carry on build. You know, this is not a collective way to come up with strategies that are going to affect all of us. It will be done as they decree. You know, there's a lot of consultation, but there's a lot of input. But had members been involved in this right at the beginning, before even a draft report came out, before to discuss what was wanted, it doesn't reflect anything that the administration for the last 5 years has said. You know, there's stuff in there rolled over from a previous iteration. It's very disappointing, but it was not a more incorporative effort at the beginning, because what we might have got is a package that actually offered something for Swale, rather than a regurgitation of the same old, and nothing new useful.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bullock. Mike.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to add anything to what's already been said, apart from the fact I do agree with that Brendan Corner. I just wanted to pick up, Simon picked it up actually, but I wanted to pick up about the possible northern and southern relief roads. I noticed on the map, and please excuse me if you've mentioned this before because I was out for a few minutes, on on the map, it says Sittingbourne town traffic congestion relief, including potential new highway routes between the A2 and M2. And I believe that's referring to the possibly to the northern and southern relief roads. Junction 5A is obviously a combination of getting onto the M2 and effectively forms a bypass for the whole Sittingbourne. Anybody who's dealt with all the problems on Stately Post Road, pollution, traffic congestion, and so on, and in the middle of Sittingbourne, tremendously of the east trying to get to the west and trying to get to the A249 will know this by heart, particularly coming from Tedham, Linstead, and Faversham through that road. We desperately need those northern and southern relief roads. So my questions are: this comment on the map is it referring to the southern and northern relief roads? And Simon mentioned there hasn't been a response yet from KCC. I'll certainly chase up that, but I'll be grateful, Joe, if you and I could chase up on it. Thanks.
Right. Thank you for that. For my 2 pence worth, and I'll be very, very quick. Obviously, you mentioned the Swale local plan also needs to dovetail into this. Obviously, that is still some way off being formalised. My big fear is that obviously with the lack of money that's around, the powers that be will look at the infrastructure that has been put in, which is Junction 5A, Key Street and Grovehurst, and it's already been looked at or mentioned already about the Northern Distributor Road and Southern Distributor Road. The money won't be found unless it's private money that is found to build it, and I dare say Swale will force to place the building along the corridors that are existing with the infrastructure that is going to come forward, and that will probably be Brenley Corner and along the A249 bobbing Borden, and Robertshire will probably be a-okay, but it still doesn't, being a Sittingbourne member, the South Sittingbourne, it will do nothing for central Sittingbourne or the congestion that we have along the A2, and it's even going to get worse between Medway towns as well. I think within this plan, it also doesn't mention that some of the critical services that Swale residents need to access are particularly the hospitals, either in Maidstone, Medway or Ashford, which are out of the borough. So having Quicklink, and particularly for those people on the far end of Sheppey, you're on a hiding to nothing to get ambulances to emergency services. So that is a real issue. Anyway, Joseph, did you want to pick up on any of the points, or just make a note of them? And I think also, because we've been going on for quite some time, for members to please, if they haven't already responded to this consultation, that they do so before close of play tomorrow. I know Mike wants to come back with something, and I dare say it's around that we agree the 5 points.
Well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 now.
Well, I mean, there were 5 points that most people agreed with, but having said that, did say that they were already there.
I just don't think, Chair.
It's about the weight.
Yeah, I don't think it does any harm for this body to put down formally on paper what it thinks, so that that can be considered as a formal response to the consultation. And that doesn't need to be a great long thing. I think we talked about a number of things. You talked about improved bus services, rural and urban, clarity on KCC's completion of the northern and southern relief roads, Brenley Corner issue, making sure that is highlighted as a requirement. Cycle routes and say from Faversham to Canterbury, it's not in there, and we would want to see that. The direct trains thing I talked about, the half-hourly services to Sheppey, redrawing the LC whip on Sheppey, the Wigan Sheerness freight lines, making sure that's up there, front and centre, and improved car parking as well as station. I think those are the main things that we all thought they were included, but aren't in there at the moment. If we could agree those, then individually tonight, we can go home and make our own points about the things that if we hadn't already done so.
Over and above.
Over and above all of those. But I think it would be weighty to, Swale has already formally responded, for us to put our own in as a JCP, I think it would be helpful. But I leave it to the members, they may think otherwise.
I mean, bearing in mind that members on the internet can't vote, what do other members that are here think of what Mike's just put forward?
Point of order, Chairman, we can vote. It's a recommendation, not a decision-making body.
Philippa? I just thought that those that can't vote, they're all.
We can vote at cabinet committees at KCC as well, John. Have we heard from Anthony yet?
Yeah, Anthony's had his hand up for quite a long time, but he seems to have gone off again now. He keeps dropping in and out.
Yeah, I've let him in a couple of times.
No, I'm here. I've just taken my hand down because the chair's indicated he was closing the item.
We're not voting on the decision. We're simply agreeing that these bodies will put forward into the consultation. So that's not the same. It's not a decision.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's, I suppose it's not a decision.
They're just taking advice.
Yeah.
What's that?
We are just responding to a consultation.
That was a different matter about the vote in the end of facilities officers, but that's leaving the building, so it's totally irrelevant to what we're talking about.
Oh, right, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, my proposal would be, Chairman, that we do formally as a body respond to the consultation in briefly setting out those nine points that have been outlined, and briefly outlining those as areas where we feel the plan draft is lacking.
Right. Yes.
I'll be very, very, I would second your proposal. And I think that, as I said, when I spoke, and I think someone else spoke as well, we haven't been consulted this. We really should have had an emergency meeting to look at this item. I myself, I've already done the consultation. But I think it would be an important thing to do as a body to put that across. And then if we all want to go, I mean, I've already done mine, and if everyone else wants to go home and do the consultation, I think as a body, this is what we should be across. So I'd second your.
Okay, so we have a proposal on the floor, and I don't think we have any others proposals. The proposal is that we formally, as a body, and myself, write to this consultation with the 9 points.
I've got 9 down.
Yeah.
Can we have them refreshed, please?
Yeah. Would you like to refresh those 9 points?
Very briefly, improved bus services, both rural and urban. Clarity on KCC's views on the completion of the northern and southern relief roads and City Mall. Pressing for Brindley Corners inclusion in any government funding. A new cycle route from Faversham to Canterbury. Direct trains from Sheerness to London. Half-hourly off-peak trains to Sheppey. Redrawing the LC whip to Queenwood to Laysdown rather than Sheerness to Laysdown as it currently is. Wigan Station, Wigan and Sheerness freight lines, just really bigging those up as a requirement, and improving the car parking at Swale Station.
Swale, yeah. Okay, Mike, did you hear all that?
All right, Mike.
Yeah, I did you include parking at Swale Halt Station?
Yeah, that's Swale.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yep, happy.
Okay.
Chairman, could we add another one, please, which is to be more ambitious about air quality My view, as I expressed when County Council debated this in May, is that the document is very weak on air quality and doesn't make any specific proposal to do much about that. And I would like that added that this committee thinks the plan should be more ambitious on air quality.
Totally. Air quality?
I think Alistair covered some of that off, Anthony.
I was talking about carbon. I'd be happy to have that.
Yeah, let's talk about carbon emissions and measure commercial highways. I'm talking about action to deal with air quality, which isn't covered in the report. The only thing it talks about is enjoying the benefits of more people transferring to EVs. But in my view, the report should be saying a lot more. It also doesn't mention NOx gases or particulates whatsoever, which is not adequate in my view.
Right. Can we sum that up? Could for you, Chair, could actually sum that up in two sentences that Philip could include?
Be more ambitious about air quality in 6 words. Because you can say that because it just builds on the more detail that have been given Environment Transport Committee and back in the May debate, and which I'll raise again in the December debate. But if you could just put that in as a sentence, that would be very helpful.
Okay. Okay, so if that's agreed by everybody, albeit I think I can see yellow dot.
That's Anthony.
Oh, that's Anthony still, is it? Nobody else wishing to speak. Can I then, and I've had a proposer and a seconder, can we vote that is formally sent as a letter to this consultation from the JTB?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, thumbs up from Simon as well. Could you do a formal letter and I'll sign it email wise and then we can send it directly to the consultation. Is that all right, Joseph?
Yes, thank you, Chair. That's absolutely brilliant.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay then, moving on. That's taken a fair time. Quiet lanes. Jeff.
He's left.
He's left, has he? Jeff Tutt?
Yeah.
He's gone.
Over chat, he said he'd sent a message.
Okay. Part 3 for information items. Item 13, Kingsbury Bridge closure and upgrade. So hopefully we've had a representative from Network Rail.
Hello.
Oh,
Yes, you
excellent.
do.
Well done. Fire away.
So, yeah, we do have some slides. We're quite a few, but we will whiz through them. We know, yeah, we don't have all day, so just let me share. Okay, so firstly, by way of introduction, my name is Ross Boyle. I am Stakeholder and Communications Manager at Network Rail. I support projects in their communication with the public and stakeholders, and I've been working hard to raise awareness of the Kingsferry Bridge closure and the impacts it would have on people in the area. I'd have to say it is not lost on us how impactful this project has been. We are very aware of the large number of road schemes in the area already causing disruption to people's journeys. And it's fair to say if we could have waited until 2026, we would have. That was definitely our preference. Unfortunately, as you'll learn as through the presentation, we could not wait. The risk of a failure is incredibly real. The impact of a failure is incredibly disruptive, and we needed to get these works done. So I'll now hand over to the project lead, my colleague Simon Holman. And Simon, do let me know when you want me to move forward with the slides.
Okay, thank you. Good evening all. Ross, could you put the slides up, please?
I am sharing, okay. Let me try again.
There we go.
There we go.
There we are.
We're there.
Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. Right, why was the work needed? There's 40 steel ropes within the bridge. That is the bridge there, you all know it. There are 16 counterweight ropes and 24 main lifting ropes. We have done 2/3 of the bridge, the steel ropes, the replacements. The reason that we were doing them is that they were coming to the end of their life, and they were due to be replaced in 2026. Next slide. Basically, October 2023, we started, or just before that, we started doing magnetic resonance testing, which is basically X-raying the ropes, and we found degradation, which you can see on the screen at the moment. We have, over the last 18 months, we've repeated these scans monthly to keep an eye on the ropes, and gradually they have been degrading. In October 23, we had one rope that was degraded. We now had, before we started the works, that had increased to 2 that had degraded, and 6 were getting to the state of needing immediate replacement. Okay, while we've been doing this MRT scans, we've also been looking at the ropes visually. We've been doing 4 weekly scanning on the ropes to keep a check, to make sure that there is that we have a complete understanding of the risk to a catastrophic failure. You can see the MRT tests there, and you can see the size of the ropes that we are replacing. As I say, what we've done so far is we've completed the replacement of 16 counterweight ropes. So all the counterweight ropes are completed, and we have completed 12 of the main lifting ropes. There's 6 ropes in each tower. We have done the 2 Sheppey side towers. We still have 12 ropes in the Kent, in the 2 Kent side towers to complete.
Yeah, we've covered that.
So we are planning on completing those within a 8-day blockade, starting on the 25th of October and going on until the 3rd of November, similar to the previous 8-day blockade. The ropes, why can't we wait until the roadworks are complete? Basically, as I've said, the ropes are degrading quite badly now. We have 2 ropes that have failed. One of them has now been replaced in the Sheppey towers. We still have a damaged rope in the Kent towers. And if the ropes did fail, there could be a massive impact on the road network, because the bridge would have to close to all trains, cars, and to ships, because it wouldn't be able to be lifted. Last February, we had an issue with the bridge, and it failed in its up position, and that caused carnage on the roads when that happened. By doing it this way, we are actually planning the closure, as we have done previously. So they are being, we have to plan them for before the winter. We have a bespoke contractor carrying out the works, and they have contract in Canada starting in November. Obviously, in the winter, you get the high winds, you get the bad weather, and that could stop the rope replacement. So we've had to do it now, rather than wait until a suitable time further on in the year.
So I'll take over from here, Simon, if happy to. Yeah. I think it's fair to say there's no good time to close the Kingsferry Bridge. When we had discussions with colleagues at Kent County Council, I think in the early stages of the project, the advice always was stay away from the holiday season. And that's something we get from stakeholders along the coast, over to Brighton, Portsmouth, etc. The holiday season is really important to the local economy, so we're totally understanding of that. But what we did find with those closures that did take place in term time, you just have those surges of traffic in the morning and the evening peaks, and people can't change their travel plans. The kids need to go to school, the parents are going to work. In the half term, There will be, obviously, that school traffic won't be there, and people will have more flexibility with their travel plans. While we know there will be holiday traffic, it isn't peak holiday season. So we know that that will have a definite benefit in terms of making the road network more manageable. We also know, and we've done some research, as some of you may have completed that research from Network Rail. We know that there's a perception locally that Kent County Council, Swale, Network Rail, National Highways didn't talk. We talked a hell of a lot. The problem was there wasn't a lot we could do. There wasn't a lot Kent could do or Swale could do to alleviate the situation. Thankfully, this time around, we have had conversations. We have been able to support the Grovehurst scheme and the amendment of its traffic management, and that will go some way to alleviating the congestion that's out there, combined with obviously the lighter traffic that we will see in half term. That being said, we are not being complacent. We know this is still going to be very challenging for local people. We need to be hot on the measures we put in place last time, and even hotter. We know we had free vehicle recovery in place last time, but we need to be proactive in the vehicle recovery. I think we learned, I think it was the first Tuesday of the first 8-day closure, we had the collision between a Travel Masters bus and a vehicle. That took a long time to clear and really just snarled up the road network. So working with our colleagues in the Grovehurst scheme, there will be patrols on the network going and spotting those vehicles and getting them moved quickly. Our colleagues in the street works team at Kent have agreed to refuse all requests for non-emergency roadworks when Kingsferry is closed, because again, we had a couple of instances where maybe some of those roadworks added a little bit more congestion to already, or more of a block to already congested road network. And obviously a key part is we did work very hard last time to make people aware. We worked with our partner organisations, and we're doing exactly the same this time. We're going to be very comprehensive in our communications. I think it's fair to say, who's my audience on this campaign? A whole island, a whole community, everyone you could think of. We've spoken to funeral homes, because when the bridge closed unplanned in February last year, a funeral was disrupted, a horse-drawn funeral was disrupted, and obviously that's something that's terrible. Obviously, we liaised closely with the schools last time, and we moved the works to avoid exams. We moved the works also to avoid a bike race, Chase the Sun, that was due to leave the island at a time in June. We engaged with farmers. We're obviously working very closely with the shipping community. Hundreds of jobs and billions a year to the national economy. Those docks are vitally important. We've been working with them, and we're keeping the bridge open for them, because if the Kingsferry Bridge can't lift, their operations are in serious threat. And I think everybody here would agree that their importance to the local economy and the regional economy and the national economy is absolutely vital. We've spoken to the prisons, because we're where people may be visiting, and if they miss their visiting slot, they may not be very happy. Hospitals, etc. We're thinking of everyone on the island, and we're trying our best to forewarn people so that at least they are prepared for what is the disruption that is to come. Probably a reiteration of some of the conversations we have there, and we did that last time, and we're doing that again. Some of you will be on our distribution lists. If you have any friends, colleagues who want to be added to our distribution lists, please, I'll put my email in the chat. Please forward their details. Reach everyone.
Thank you.
In terms of partnership working, I just want to say a massive thank you to colleagues at Kent County Council, Swale, and National Highways. We know that we have brought a challenge to their door, but they have been incredibly helpful and supportive in spreading the word, giving their advice. So just please pass on that thank you, because it's invaluable to us in getting this job complete and ensuring the local community is aware. While we are relying on our partners to help support us, but we're also investing a bit of money in really trying to cut through to reach everyone in the community. We know not everyone reads the papers. We know not and everyone will pay attention to the emails and the notifications given out by the councillors. So we have billboard advertising. You should be able to see it from today at sites across Sheppey and Sittingbourne, and it will be at various places across both Sheppey and Sittingbourne up to and through the closure. As ever, in a modern communications campaign, we're paying for Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, radio advertising, Spotify advertising. We're working hard to ensure people are aware. Obviously, the media, you will be aware of the local press. The gossip boards of Sheppey are a very active community, and you will have seen again the advertisements and posts there making the community aware. It's probably worth saying we have strengthened our message this time around. If you remember our message from last time, we said, please plan ahead. Journeys will take longer. And I think in hindsight, maybe we should have told people to really change their behavior, but I'm also very conscious that Sheppey isn't a work from home place. People go to work. There'll be tradesmen, they'll work in factories, etc. A lot of people. So the stay at home message doesn't go down well. So we are asking people this time, yes, to plan ahead, change your plans if possible, travel at quieter times of the day if possible. But really, people do need to change their behavior or they will get caught out. So working closely with National Highways and Grovehurst on the traffic management plan, our VMS signs, the vehicle motorway signage you see there in the bottom right-hand corner will be deployed over the coming weeks and over the closures. We're sharing information on each other's websites. We'll have customer-friendly plans and diagrams in place. Community relations wise, while a lot of the work actually doesn't have a neighbourhood next to it, the whole island is our community. We've been working with cycling groups as well to make them aware. We don't want a large group of cyclists turning up to try and get on our shuttle replacement service because it doesn't have capacity for a peloton. But we are working hard to reach everyone. The working with the Kent and Medway Resilience Forum, obviously vital. We're having regular meetings with them. The various services have plans in place when Kings Ferry is closed. The fire service, for example, has specialist equipment in place for working at height, working at depth in the event of an incident. The ambulance service did place additional cover on the island. Granted, they did say their response times were unaffected by the closure. The feedback was when we turn our lights on, people get out of the way. Granted, we're not taking that for granted, I should say, and we're still working closely with them, and those plans will be in place as we go into the next closure. And throughout that closure, we have daily calls with our partners, and we're discussing the situation daily and responding as best we can to any issues out there on the network. And it's not all just about the bad news and the disruption. I hope some of you managed to see some of the content we produced over the blockade, or the closure, I should say, in layman's speak. This is an interesting bridge. It's an iconic bridge. It's an asset to Sheppey, and it's got a story to tell. And we tried to tell that story, and we'll be back again to tell that story. And I will say, any members or officers on the meeting today would be very happy to have you along for a visit over the next closure. Maybe get you inside the bridge, Simon, if you can pull a few strings for us. Because obviously it's a unique and iconic bridge, and if you haven't seen it up close, we would love to give you that opportunity and explain a bit more about the work that we are doing. But I'll now hand over for some questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I got Andy Booth, I think, who I've seen with his hand up for a long time.
You have.
And Peter. Thank you.
You have. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Simon and Ross, for that really educational update for us. You're pretty much stuffed, aren't you? You're stuffed because the works need to be done. You're stuffed because there is going to be an element of the community that don't like it, irrespective. Those of us that use the road networks frequently, and particular those of us that travel to London and to the home counties, know exactly the situation of a breakdown, of a failure, of congestion. Excuse me. Just utter those two words, tunnel and Dartford, and everybody cringes because we know what happens there. So I'm very respectful that it's not an easy job to do. However, it does need to be done. What I'm interested in are two items. What is or can you outline the shift patterns, the working shift patterns? Are they going to be continuous, i.e. 24 hours? I'm sure some of that work, if not all, will take place inside the towers. So in my book, there could be a lot of out of hours working. And secondly, like all good planning, like all good engineering operations, what is plan B? So let's say you get 85, 90% of the work completed and then find something else. I don't want to hear, and I'm sure my colleagues across county and across Swale, I don't want to hear at the 11th hour, we found this and we found that, and we now need to extend that closure. I understand it, and I understand that additional works or additional issues can be found well into the works that are planned. I do understand that. However, we are dealing with a static population, and I applaud, coming out of that, I applaud the efforts to keep the works out of the holiday period and out of those more inclement periods. We're all hopeful that we're going to have warm, sunny weather well into late November, early December. But we can never be too sure. We've got allegedly a hurricane on the horizon somewhere. Somebody very famous said that a number of years ago and got shut down in flames. So I'm not going to go there. But we're all aware that the weather does play a very important part to people travelling to and from the Isle of Sheppey. So yeah, what is Plan B, and can you outline the shift patterns for us, please?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Do you want me to answer that, Ross?
Yeah, this is your domain, Simon.
No, that's fine. That's fine. With regard to the shift patterns, we will be working 24 hours a day on some of the shifts. Now, that's not in total for the full 8-day blockade. The reason being is that they're a bespoke contractor that we're using to do this work. They work all over the world. Because there's not many steel cable manufacturers that deal with these type of bridges, so they only have a limited number of resources, and also during the day we cannot do certain works at night time because connections of the ropes, etc., that we need as much light as possible. So therefore we will be doing critical works in the day, and there will be other works during the nights. So there will be 24-hour working, but it is not permanent 24-hour working for the full 8-day blockade. There will probably be about 2 or 3 days where there will be limited works overnights, but most of the time it will be 24-hour working because we have scaffolding to put, we have abseilers, etc. So there will be 24-hour working on some days, but not the whole 8-day blockade. With regard to Plan B, obviously, as I said, we have done fully completed the counterweight ropes, and we have done the 2 Sheppey side towers. So we've only got the Kent side towers to do. We have been doing numerous investigations. We have learnt a lot from the previous works that we have done. We have a plan on what we aim to do in the Kent towers. It is exactly the same as what we did in the Sheppey towers. However, we have done between the last 8-day blockade and now, we have done a lot more investigations. So anything that we can do, we have done, and we are putting in place to restrict having to go again, because obviously, as I've said, a contractor does go off to Canada on a new for a contract over in Canada in November. We cannot allow this to not happen. We've learnt all the lessons from the previous blockades and the previous shutdowns. So we've done as much as we can. Yes, if we during the works we find a cracked cylinder or something like that, then we have welders on site. We have a fabrication unit very close by, so we have everything in place that we physically can to make sure that the 8 days do go as planned.
Lovely, thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Angela.
Yeah, it is great that you're doing all this forward planning. People expect far too much these days because we didn't have any forward planning when the bridge was literally closed overnight. When we had one bridge, the King's Ferry, the bridge was closed for a week. There was a damn snow. You hear all the weeping and wailing. On a positive note, am I correct that when the King's Ferry Bridge is closed and there is just the one way on and off, crime on the island goes down?
That's not even better.
Did that happen with the snow?
There's the slopes that come from the island.
Oh.
Depends if the criminals are caught on the island.
You will have broadcast. Right. Any other questions? Okay, let's have Tony and then.
You may not be able to answer this question because you're obviously for the engineering department. I think I asked this question last time at the remote meeting earlier in the year, but it was closed. Right. Will there be enough buses laid on in the morning and evening peak to carry the employment passengers? Was it proved or one way or the other at the previous closure when there was insufficient buses? Because I'm thinking of people who want to get connections up to London, particularly connecting at high speed.
Ross, I'll leave that with you. That one.
I think are you referencing the local buses, the local Chalkwell service or the Southeastern bus replacement service?
Right. Insufficient buses laid on.
Yeah. So Southeastern put in place, obviously, as you'll always know, for a rail closure, there will be a rail replacement service. Southeastern had frequent buses in place. The usership of those was incredibly low. Yeah. Incredibly low. And the highest capacity I think was half full. But most buses will say a capacity for 40-50 people. We're moving on average 8 to 9 over the closures. Unfortunately, and again, the research that we've done, instead of getting the bus, most people jumped into their cars. That's what my research is telling me. Everyone jumped into the car and jumped into the congestion and added to the congestion. So there was a high frequency, 4 an hour during the peaks buses, not used. We also had the pedestrian, cycle and moped shuttle, very sparingly used. Obviously, we'll continue to have all those things in place. But if I was to say, would there be a business case to have them in place? Probably not, but we will continue to have them in place. I think it's probably worth us maybe in our messaging, asking people to use the buses. But looking again some of the verbatim comments from our research, I think a lot of people said, well, I'd prefer to be stuck in congestion in my own car with my own radio or whatever than be stuck on a bus in that congestion. So unfortunately, despite the bus provision in place, usership was very low.
Peter.
Yes, I think I did understand that the contractor for Growfirst, who I think was fantastic putting their bridge in, but that they are actually going to open it up to 2 lanes, because if you try and get all the traffic in single lane, 13,000 vehicles a day, there's 40,000 vehicles a day on the Sheppey Way, so caught in a pipe. So can you confirm that they are going to actually open up the 2 lanes? Because then there won't be a bottleneck. It might slow it, but it'll keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, so we've been in negotiations with colleagues at Kent County Council and in negotiations with the Grovehurst scheme. We have come to an agreement that we will support the scheme in their amendment of the traffic management, and that Richard, I believe, is on the call, and that is the amendment of the northbound traffic management to allow 2 lanes, but I'll allow Richard to confirm that. But yes, we have done that. I think it wasn't really a possibility last time, but I'm very pleased to say that that will be in place this time around.
Yeah. Excellent.
Excellent, thank you.
Right, I haven't seen any further on the questions. I'd certainly like to thank you very much for giving us an update. It is a critical.
Richard Shelton has got his hand up.
Has he?
GTTRA external. Is he KCC?
Yeah.
Okay, Richard.
I'm due to be speaking a bit later, but it probably just appropriate now is just to come in with Ross on the Kings Ferry closure. I can confirm that Kent have instructed our contractors, Jackson's, to remove the northbound A249 lane closures, and that will be in place. We've also instructed our contractors that are responsible for the vehicle recovery service to provide additional recovery to cover the full length of the A249 up to Cowstick Corner. So I just wanted to pick that up now. I'd cover it in my own slot a little bit later, but I just thought it was better to cover it at the same time as Ross. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Could it confirm that the southbound one is going to be 2 lanes?
Did you hear that, Richard?
Unfortunately, the southbound lane closure will still remain on. From experience of the previous closures, whilst the southbound had some congestion of the morning, the significant congestion we had on or that was experienced on the previous was all the northbound and the blocking up around the the bobbing junction. And so we're desperate to ensure that we don't get the blocking back of the evening. We've looked at whether we can, but we've got the southbound slip road closure at the moment, and we're not able to remove that southbound lane closure on the A249. But from previous experience, yes, there were delays in the morning, but the significant congestion and what brought Sittingbourne close to the standstill, accepting that most of it was also had incidents. We had 2 incidents on the Monday, on the Tuesday. But the first time that was put in place, it was around the bobbing junction that we had experienced all the congestion, and that's what we're trying to do our best to support Network Rail with by opening up that the 249 in that area.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Well, we now. I don't have any further questions. Can I just thank you for that update on the Kingsbury Bridge closure? Yeah. And let's keep our fingers crossed that it all goes smoothly, because it has. It's not only impacted the A249, but the A2 all the way through to Raynham and midway down. But it has been one big mess. So yeah, thanks very much. Right, moving on.
Thank you very much.
Further update, please, from the National Highways on M2 Junction 5 stop reworks, which hopefully is nearly all complete.
Anybody there?
Anybody there from National Highways on M2 Junction 5 stop rework?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. Well,
are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure what was happening there. Yeah, thank you for having me. So probably the last time I will be invited to speak, which should signify good news for everybody. Since the last JTB in March, we have obviously opened up the flyover in both directions. We did that sort of mid-July. We opened 1 lane in each direction mid-July, and then we opened up to full capacity sort of end of July time. And since then we haven't had any permanent traffic management on the road since then. We are now just working towards our official opening for traffic. So although for all intents and purposes, it looks like it's open for traffic. There are still some light sort of snagging works, fencing, landscaping, and just a little bit more signage to do as well. So we will have some closures, but they'll be overnights, possibly weekends. But what we're currently trying to do is to consolidate everything we need into one plan to reduce the amount of closures we need to do. So yeah, it's going to be predominantly for signage, some additional signage, some amendments we need to make, but nothing significant. I'd like to think that everybody has been experienced the benefits since we opened the flyover. Obviously, the traffic has been flowing, freely, and it's been much better. No congestions really, apart from the odd accident that might cause general congestion. But yeah, overall, it's performing how we wanted it to, and we're obviously happy, and thank everybody for our ongoing patience and support in the last, well, it's been 3 years now since we broke ground. So yeah, just a big thank you for everybody for persevering and sticking with us throughout. And yeah, we'll be nearly there. But by Christmas, we should, all being well, have demobilized.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for the update. I'd just like to say that there is still, and this is probably more for Kent County Council, there is still quite a lot of damage on the side roads leading, or the rat running roads, certainly towards Hartlip, Farming Corner through to Hartlip, etc. That need repairs, where the roads have been decimated by the extra traffic because of the roadworks. Although the roadworks might be finished at Junction 5, there's still plenty of work to be done on the Brookfield roads. Right, thank you very much for that. I've got Andy Booth, I think, who's got a hand up. But somebody, Simon Clark, and then I thought I saw Angela. Yeah, so can we take that?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Daniel, firstly, I think we need to applaud the works that have been undertaken at this junction. I was fortunate enough to visit the site kind of day 3, day 4 of your initial activities through KCC. And the plans that we looked at there, and the vision that we looked at, and we signed up to, we embraced. I have to say, it has been done fantastic. It's a fantastic job, and ahead of schedule. So congratulations on that. I use probably every single part of that junction, either travelling from Maidstone and the M20, and then towards Canterbury or towards London, and vice versa from the island. And it has made a considerable amount of difference. Everybody got extremely frustrated with the traffic lights. We don't want to go back to that kind of historic moment, but it has made a superb difference to people's journeys to and from Sittingbourne and Maidstone, and obviously those longer journeys. So I think congratulations are well placed for the works that have undertaken. It wasn't a small task. It was a massive multi-million-pound task. Right, okay, that's the good side. Bad side is I'm not a tree hugger. I enjoy trees, and the hundreds of trees that were chopped down, large, well-established trees, yeah, was pretty grim to stomach in those early months. I look forward to the planting growing and being as good as it was. As with all these schemes, it's the upkeep, it's the maintaining of those saplings, it's the maintaining of the area in itself. And I'd like to hear that the commitment is still there to maintain that. The commitment is still there to replace any of those saplings or trees or bushes, shrubs, etc., that are going to die. And I think it's 5 years. Perhaps you can help me on that one. The other thing is you've removed Maidstone bound, there was a large siding that was being removed, obviously, to make way for the extended exit to London. Any adverse effects on that? And are there any plans in future for additional sidings for emergencies, etc.? Thank you very much.
Do you want me to come back there? Yeah, okay. So firstly, thank you for the kind words. I'll make sure I'll pass that back to the team. Really appreciate that. So the planting, the planting first. Yes, you are correct. So our delivery partner, Graham's, they have a contractual 5-year aftercare period where they will continue to maintain it. Their subcontractor who looks specifically at landscaping, it's also in their contract that any saplings or any planting that doesn't take, they have to replace during that period. And then obviously beyond the 5 years, it will then be passed over to the highway authorities. So whether that be Kent or whether that be National Highways, depending on the location, and they will take the maintenance on from there. So yeah, so we are committed. It was part of our planning orders. It was in our environmental statement. So yeah, we are long-term committed for that. This second part, can you just clarify the location that you meant, please?
Yeah, sorry, it's there was a lay-by between Sittingbourne and the Stockbury flyover.
Yes.
So on Maidstone bound, so on the left-hand side. It was fairly close to the flyover. That's what I'm thinking about, Daniel.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, okay, I'm with you now. Yeah, so we had to close out, as you said, it was too close to the flyover, so the weaving distance to come out of that to get to the flyover would have been substandard, so that had to be closed. We don't have any plans to replace that. Yeah, it just had to be closed for the standards, really.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Dan, hallelujah. We've been waiting 20 years for that piece of road to be open like that. I mean, I've spent many a happy hour coming out of Morrison's depot at Kemsley, joining the A249, and it taking an absolute age to even get to the Stockbury roundabout, let alone circumvent it. And I've travelled on the new piece of road at various times during the day, be it peak time morning, peak time evening, and during the day. And it's absolutely amazing. It's night and day the transformation it's made. So yeah, from myself, please pass on my thanks and my residents' thanks to the team. One of the points I was going to make has already been made by Councillor Booth, which was the lay-by on the Maidstone bound carriageway, which you've already answered. It is disappointing that that's been closed because it was a well-used lay-by, and it's a shame that there's no possible way that a lay-by can be reinstated on that side of the carriageway. Two questions remaining. One, when I found it difficult, and I'm sure I'm not speaking alone, when you're trying to find your way off of the roundabout and the new road, etc., to go to where you go up the hill to Ode Street. And also when you carry along, I think there's a fence there now. You go behind the fence and carry along behind that to the South Green turning. The signposting there, I would say, does lack some clarity. So if you could take that back and have that looked at, that would be appreciated. And the final question is, have you or anyone from the team had any information as to whether the flyover part and all the new works has had what detriment or advantage it's caused at the M20 junction at the bottom of Detling Hill? Thank you.
Yeah, so we are in the process of amending some of the signs that are coming off the roundabout to go to O Street. I mean, feel free to clarify exactly what you mean by confusing. We have had some feedback around HGVs going down there accidentally, trying to find the southbound carriageway towards Maidstone. So we're putting some additional signage in to try and prevent that, and we're making some amendments to the street to the directional signs. So specifically the the location names are on the sign as well. So we are making some amendments there, but feel free to, you can send me an email with any specific concerns, and I can take those back.
Where it is, the main part is when you used to go southbound on the A249, you obviously used to turn left to go up to Ode Street. Then you go a bit further, and you'd have a turn in by where the police dog training station is to go up to South Green or South Street. It's a bit confusing because I've done it the first time I tried to find going up to South Street or South Green. I went up the A249 carriageway as I normally would, and then found that I couldn't get off to the South Green turning because you have to basically come off the roundabout wherever it is and go along the sort of like the like a slip road almost.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. So yeah, hopefully the signage we're changing will make that a little bit clearer. We also think most of the traffic making that manoeuvre will also be local traffic, which we think will probably come with time when they get used to the new setup. But yeah, hopefully the new signage will address that. We haven't done any monitoring of any impact on Junction 7 as of yet, so that the scheme will go through a post project opening evaluation. So it will be monitored for a period of time to look at the impact, but more importantly, it's to measure the benefits. So obviously, when a project of this size or any project is funded, it's based on its benefits to cost, and that's that's kind of locked in with the Department for Transport and into our funding. So we have to go and then prove that the benefits that we said we would deliver, will be delivered. And as part of that, we do some substantial monitoring and evaluation. So yeah, that will be done over the next couple of years, and then it's looked at, and as well as safety. Safety is also assessed during that time to make sure that there's no sort of adverse safety impacts, or the positive safety impacts have also been delivered. So it will be monitored.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right.
Thank you.
I have Mike waiting just to finish up.
Just thanks. Yeah, it's only a brief one, Daniel, just to say again, thanks to your team. I can remember, and others in the room will also, when actually the flyer was off the table, and National Highway's only suggestion was a single level roundabout. And I also remember the conversations in corridors in Westminster to get KCC to agree to fund the design work that would put the flyover back on the table. And I was pleased that KCC did, and I'm pleased that the flyover was the eventual solution. But you and your team, Daniel, I think you've got to take an awful lot of personal credit for the way you've driven it. You and your team have done enormously well in getting the thing delivered on time and pretty much to budget, as far as I understand it. So I'd say that. On the signage issue, we've all got a but, haven't we, all of us tonight? The one but at the end of that, Daniel, is the signage issue. As you're going northbound, the very last sign that points to the M2, literally as you're joining the bottom of the flyover, looks like it goes straight on and doesn't look like it's pointing you to go to the left, which of course the traffic needs to do if it wants to get on the M2. And I wonder, when you're looking at the signage, whether your guys could just have a look at that and just alter the angle of the arrow on that sign by a few degrees to make it more obvious that you have to turn off and not go straight on. That's the only confusion I've found, but I've not used the roads that others have used to get down to South Street, etc. So very well, many congratulations, Daniel, to everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
I'll take that away. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Right, moving on. Agenda item 15, update from KCC on the Grovehurst Road
Roundabouts.
Good evening, Chairman. I don't have any coloured photographs or anything to share, but we'll just give you a verbal update. You'll be aware that we had a weekend closure several weeks ago, and the new bridge beams were placed in across the A249. Once we got those bridge beams in, that enabled us to open up the northbound slip roads to traffic. So we have changed our focus from working on what we call the west or the north of the A249 to the east and the south of the A249, the area in front of Nichols. With regard to now we've got the northbound slip roads open, that's enabled us to shut the southbound slip road. That's now shut and is due to be shut until Christmas time. We've got sorry, I've misread my notes. Yes, we've got that shut till Christmas time. Our Christmas arrangement is that all the slip roads will be open for the slip road for the Christmas period. So the contractor's got a fair amount of work to do on that southbound exit slip road to get that up to standard so he can get traffic on it. But that's his task over the next 2 or 3 months. We'll not be doing anything to the southbound entry slip road until the new year. The contractor is looking to remove the lane closures permanently on the A249 by December this year. That comes with proviso that it may need to be some occasional closures, but to enable some tidying up and finishing works to be done. But the intention is that the A249 is back open to traffic full time by around December this year. It would have been great if we could have had it open in time for both lanes in time for the Kingsbury closure, but we've only been able to agree to temporarily remove the northbound lane closure. Unfortunately, that'll have to go back on for a short period of time once we've finished to get the safety works done, the vehicle restraint systems and the work in front of the bridge abutments to be completed. The form of the temporary junction at the top of the southbound exit slip road is still being developed by the contractor. I'm mindful that it won't be a full junction. It won't have the roundabout at the end of it as it used to have. And so we are looking at how that is going to be formed. It could well be that everything needs to go past the front of Nichols along Grovehurst Road. No, it's not Grovehurst Road, is it? It's Swale Way to the first roundabout and then back again. But we are looking at that at the moment, and we're tasking the contractor to come up with a good solution in that location. But we can share that with you in due course. We continue to have monthly drop-in sessions, and we continue to do a newsletter for those that are on the list. And the only other really thing to say for Grovehurst Road is the works are to be completed still by May/June 2025. A little bit like M2 Junction 5, I'm hoping that the roadworks will be significantly, or the traffic management will be off significantly by that time, and we'll just be working on the verges out the way. But again, I've got to look closely at the contractor's programme there. That covers Grovehurst Road. I noticed the agenda is purely Grovehurst Road, but I just wanted a couple of quick points on Key Street. Key Street, we're looking to start very shortly. We did do some advanced site clearance at Key Street in February, March this year. That had to stop because we found dormice, and we needed then to work around and get a dormice license. We have a dormice license in place now. The next opportunity for doing that site clearance is September/October, and seeing with the 7th of October, we're getting to the end of that period. So we're due to be out on site around Key Street and along Chestnut Street, finishing off the site clearance down to ground level from the 14th of October. We were hoping to start the main work shortly after, but because of other works going on in the area, our streetworks team have been a bit concerned about giving us access to Key Street. So we're currently looking to get confirmation of a start on Key Street and Chestnut Street around about the 9th of January next year. The works that involve the right slip road, they would follow on in February and March. But yeah, we're working around Key Street, and I think probably at your next JTB, it would be worth me while coming along with some sketches and some plans about how the contractor intends to do the works at Key Street. We've restricted them to very tight working areas and keeping all traffic open at most times. But like all of these schemes, you've got to get out into the carriageway at some point, and there will be incursions into the carriageway. But we'll come up with a full plan of action and share that in due course. And I think that's really all I really wanted to say, to give you a very brief update of where we're at. But I'm quite happy to take any questions if I've shot over anything too quickly.
That's excellent. Thank you. I've got Mike Dender, Mark Whiting, and Penny Winters. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Richard. Two questions really. One is the closures, the recent closures for Swale Way, foreclosure, and Grothurst Road. Did they go okay? I think you've got both of them. You have to do another two. So I'm just wondering about the residents, particularly in Kemsey Fields and so on. Have you had any complaints about that? And the second thing is, I don't know if I understood you correctly, and pardon me if I didn't, but you said that traffic wanting to get onto Grothurst Road would have to go down past Nichols, down to the island and back up. Is that a temporary thing, or did I misunderstand you?
Yeah, if I can come in first, the road closures of Swale Way over the weekends for these drainage works and getting works under the carriageway. I have reported our comms team have reported very few comments and complaints coming in, so I'm just going to assume it went reasonably well. But unfortunately, I didn't check to see how bad the congestion may have been over the weekend. But I do know they were weekend closures and not weekday closures. With regard to when the southbound exit slip road is opened up again, when we won't have the full gyratory in place. So I'm trying to get the contractor to come up with what his temporary works actually looks like. At the moment, he's telling me he's going to need to go past the front of Nichols to the first roundabout and then back over the railway bridge back to get back to the A249. We are challenging that, but that's where he currently is at the moment. The challenge becomes that we've got traffic coming off of the slip road and what will be on the new gyratory. We've got traffic that's coming across the old bridge that's still coming in that direction, and we've got the Nichols junction all in very close proximity, and it's about coming up with a safe traffic management arrangement that works in that area. So if I can just ask that you bear with us at the moment, we are looking at that, and hopefully we'll get something that we can share with you all very shortly.
Okay, thank you. Come back.
Okay,
just very quickly. Well, as I'm sure you know, Richard, we are going to get a real issue from one estate that will be virtually isolated by doing that, depending on how long that temporary arrangement will be.
The intent, I need to double check to see how it fits into with the program, Mike. The intention that it's initially short period of time over when the slip road is opened again, over the Christmas period. Exactly how we go and build after the Christmas and what the traffic management arrangements are, I am still struggling to get a clear plan from the contractor, and that is something I'm pushing hard to get, what that clear plan is. But certainly, as I say, for where we are at the moment at Christmas, all of the slip roads will be closure, and we will have a temporary arrangement at the top of that southbound exit slip road.
Okay, if you're keeping in a loop at that.
Yeah, we will do, Mike.
Okay, Michael Whiting.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Richard, thanks for that. One of the things on the wish list for Key Street was for the works to provide some alternative parking for residents in Keacole Hill who currently have to fight for parking spaces in Bobbing Hill and thereby cause congestion on Bobbing Hill. There was some talk about creating some parking as part of these works on the Key Street roundabout for the residents of Keacole Hill. I wonder whether that was still in the plan.
No, unfortunately, Mike, that's not in the plan currently. The land obviously still sits there, but I think there was challenges. We identified challenges early on in the design phase that there are some utilities going through there, and the levels require quite a lot of work, and the utility that went through there was one of those expensive ones to move, and it just became prohibitive as far as we were concerned with delivering the improvements on Key Street. I mean, the land still stays there, and it could happen at any time, but there are utilities underneath there. I can't remember. I think it was gas, but that was going to be very, very expensive to move.
Okay, thanks, Richard.
Okay. Shane.
I'd just like to say, very impressed at that side issue along Saffron Way that runs through my wall. Notified me that the road is closed further up, obviously to avoid cars going up there and shunting back HGV. So I'm very, very impressed with that. So much to the extent I had residents coming on to me and I'm there wondering what the heck was going on. And obviously I can explain to them they've got to put up with a bit of disruption while it goes on. But exceptional good signs along there in my opinion.
Okay, well, that's been a very good update. I haven't got any further questions for you, but all I can say is I wish you every success in removing the dormice. So the work gets going, otherwise we're going to be delayed for some considerable time. Anyway, Thank you very much for attending.
Okay, thank you. Bye now.
Thank you. Right, moving on. We have a couple more bits and pieces to get through, but can I just say they are for noting as opposed to any great details. So agenda item 16, it really is for information. So if you do have any issues, can I ask you to contact the officers directly?
Yeah.
Rather than from here. And agenda item 17 is Spain. And that just leaves agenda item 18, which is the date of the next meeting, which is the 2nd of December 2024. Yes.
There are such quiet items that rolled over.
Yeah, the quiet lanes, as Jeff has, can I just say, Jeff has asked for that to come through there, and the question he's put, as always, is there an update on the quiet lanes? And the answer is no. There is no update or further moving forward with the quiet lane. It is what it is, and certainly the quiet lanes that exist around Junction 5, Brentley Corner, and the improvements that are happening there on the building works. I mean, the quiet lanes aren't quiet anymore. That's the answer. But he can keep on asking for an update on quiet lanes, but that's unless he wants to put something forward. I've got Simon, I believe, that wants to say something before I.
Yeah, sorry, thank you, Chair. You moved through quite quickly. There was just a couple of points I wanted to make on agenda item 16. But if you can, or if Democratic Services can,
as it's for Simon, as it's for information only, can you contact the officer and get that information if you want an update?
yeah, can we get the name of the officer who maybe took over from Alan Blackburn, because I'm unsure who to contact now.
Jenny Watson.
Jenny Watson.
Jenny Watson. Okay, thank you.
Jenny's initial contact.
Yeah.
Or is it Daniel? Daniel, is on the call?
Yeah, no, hi Chair. Just to introduce myself, I have taken over from Alan. So I will put my details in the chat. So if any of you need to get hold of me, please feel free to drop me an email.
Excellent. If that would be really helpful, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. So the last.
Just briefly, Chair, on 17, There is an item saying a report to conduct with any active by the street works team manager. Do we know where that report is and is it going to get?
For information, I would have, you'd have to ask.
There you are.
In an email.
All right,
In your email.
I'll email him.
Right, and the last item was the act, which everybody's. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much. It's been a long meeting, quite late today. But it's been well worth it to catch up on all the main issues. So, thank you very much. So the meeting is now closed. Thank you, everybody. There was an issue with drunks down in the car park down the bottom earlier on. So be careful.